Judge, he, you made a big mistake.
What happens when a real estate mogul worth $200 million walks into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom for reckless driving charges, then starts screaming at the judge demanding immediate dismissal while insulting everyone in the room? This aggressive millionaire is about to learn that some voices raised in anger backfire completely, some courtroom tantrums reveal hidden guilt, and some judges maintain perfect calm while dismantling your entire defense with quiet precision. But what makes this case absolutely stunning isn't just the screaming or the disrespect. It's what Judge Caprio discovered by remaining completely silent for 90 seconds while the defendant raged, what that silence revealed about a hit-and-run cover-up, and the felony charges that followed. Subscribe now, because watching Judge Caprio's masterclass in control composure will leave you speechless. It's a Monday morning in Providence Municipal Court, and the atmosphere feels tense before the session even begins. Court staff are whispering to each other, glancing nervously at the door. The bailiff has positioned himself closer to the defendant's table than usual, a subtle shift that experienced courtroom observers notice immediately. The reason for this tension becomes clear when you read the case file. Douglas Edward Whitmore, age 54, real estate developer and CEO of Whitmore Properties, facing charges of reckless driving, excessive speeding, and failure to yield. But there's a note in the file that caught everyone's attention. Defendant has been verbally aggressive with court staff during pre-trial proceedings. Recommend extra security presence. Judge Frank Caprio reviews the file carefully. He has dealt with aggressive defendants before, but something about this case feels different. The incident report describes Whitmore driving his Mercedes G-Wagon at 95 miles per hour through downtown Providence at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon, running 2 red lights, nearly hitting a cyclist, and finally being stopped by police after a brief pursuit. What makes the case unusual is what happened after Whitmore was stopped. According to the police report, he immediately began screaming at officers, threatening lawsuits, demanding to speak to the police commissioner, and refusing to provide his license and registration for several minutes. It took 3 officers to de-escalate the situation enough to issue citations. The bailiff calls the case. The State of Rhode Island versus Douglas Edward Whitmore. Charges: reckless driving, excessive speeding, running red lights, failure to yield to pedestrians. The courtroom doors swing open aggressively, hitting the walls with loud bangs. Douglas Whitmore enters like a storm system. He is a large man, about 6 feet 2 inches, heavy-set, with a red face that suggests either high blood pressure or perpetual anger, possibly both. He is wearing an expensive charcoal suit, but it's slightly rumpled, his tie loosened, his collar unbuttoned. His gray hair is disheveled, as it has been running his hands through it repeatedly. He walks quickly, aggressively, his footsteps heavy on the courtroom floor. His attorney, Martin Shepard, a nervous-looking man in his late 40s, practically runs to keep up with him. Douglas doesn't sit when he reaches the defendant's table. He stands there, arms crossed, glaring at everyone in the courtroom with undisguised hostility. Judge Caprio takes a moment to observe this entrance, then speaks calmly. "Mr. Whitmore, please be seated." Douglas doesn't move. He just continues glaring. "Mr. Whitmore, I asked you to sit down." Douglas's voice is loud, aggressive. "I'd prefer to stand, if it's all the same to you." Judge Caprio's voice remains calm and measured. "It's not all the same to me. This is my courtroom. When I ask you to sit, you sit. Now, please sit down." Douglas takes his time, making it clear through body language that is complying under protest. He sits down heavily, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. Judge Caprio continues, his voice still perfectly calm. "Mr. Whitmore, you're facing multiple serious traffic violations. How do you plead?" Before his attorney can speak, Douglas leans forward aggressively. "Not guilty to all of it. This entire situation is ridiculous. Those charges are fabricated, and I shouldn't even be here." Martin Shepard, his attorney, tries to interject. "Your Honor, what my client means is..." Douglas cuts him off sharply. "I can speak for myself, Martin. I don't need you putting words in my mouth." He turns back to Judge Caprio. "Judge, I'm a busy man. I run a company worth $200 million. I have properties across New England. I have meetings, deadlines, investors waiting. I don't have time for this nonsense. Judge Caprio's expression doesn't change. His voice remains calm. Mr. Whitmore, everyone who comes into this courtroom is busy. Everyone has responsibilities. That doesn't exempt anyone from traffic laws or court proceedings. Douglas's face reddens further. You don't understand. I'm not everyone. I employ 340 people. I generate millions in tax revenue. My developments have revitalized entire neighborhoods in Providence. I deserve some consideration here. Mr. Whitmore, the charges against you are serious. You were driving 95 miles per hour through a residential area. You ran 2 red lights. You nearly struck a cyclist. Do you dispute these facts? Douglas slams his hand on the table. Yes, I dispute them. That speed gun was probably miscalibrated. Those traffic lights were yellow when I went through them. And that cyclist came out of nowhere. It wasn't my fault. Judge Caprio signals to the prosecutor. Ms. Chen, please present the evidence. Assistant District Attorney Rebecca Chen stands. Your Honor, we have dashcam footage from the police vehicle that pursued Mr. Whitmore. We also have testimony from 3 witnesses who observed the defendant's driving and statements from the 2 officers who made the stop. Douglas interrupts loudly. Oh, here we go. Police footage. Everyone knows those can be edited, manipulated. I want an independent analysis of that video before it's shown. Judge Caprio's voice remains steady. Mr. Whitmore, you will have an opportunity to challenge evidence through proper legal channels. Right now, we're going to view the dashcam footage. Please be quiet. I will not be quiet. This is Mr. Whitmore. Judge Caprio's voice doesn't rise in volume, but there's steel in it. If you interrupt these proceedings again, I will hold you in contempt. Do you understand? Douglas glazes but says nothing. The courtroom monitor displays the dashcam footage. It begins with a police cruiser driving normally through downtown Providence. Suddenly, a dark blue Mercedes G-Wagon speeds past, going visibly faster than other traffic. The footage shows a Mercedes running a red light at an intersection, cars braking hard to avoid collision. The police cruiser activates its lights and siren, beginning pursuit. The Mercedes doesn't stop. It continues at high speed, weaving between cars. At another intersection, it runs another red light. A cyclist, clearly visible in the footage, swerves desperately to avoid being hit, nearly falling off his bike. The Mercedes finally stops after about 45 seconds of pursuit. The timestamp shows the speed 95 miles per hour in a 30 miles per hour zone. When the footage ends, the courtroom is silent. The evidence is damning, clear, unambiguous, impossible to dispute. Douglas explodes. He stands up abruptly, his chair falling backward with a crash. This is garbage. That footage doesn't show anything. The angle is wrong. The speed reading is wrong. Everything about this is wrong. His attorney tries desperately. Doug, please sit down. Let me handle. Shut up, Martin. Douglas turns to Judge Caprio, pointing aggressively. You're sitting up there acting like you're some kind of moral authority, but this is a setup. I was set up. Those cops targeted me because I'm successful, because I have money. Judge Caprio's voice remains absolutely calm, almost quiet. Mr. Whitmore, sit down now, or I will have you removed from this courtroom. You'll remove me? You? Douglas laughs harshly. Do you know who I am? I have lawyers who could destroy your career. I have connections to the mayor, to the city council, to people who actually matter in this city. The courtroom erupts in shocked whispers. The bailiff moves forward, but Judge Caprio holds up one hand, signaling him to wait. Judge Caprio does something unexpected. He leans back in his chair and says absolutely nothing. He just looks at Douglas Whitmore with calm, steady eyes. 5 seconds pass. 10 seconds. 15 seconds. Douglas, confused by the silence, continues ranting. What? You have nothing to say. You're just going to sit there? Fine. I'll say it all. This court is a joke. These charges are fabricated. That cyclist wasn't even in danger. He's probably some plant working with the police. The whole thing is designed to shake down successful people for money. 20 seconds of Judge Caprio silence. 25 seconds. Douglas's attorney is tugging on his sleeve desperately. Doug, please, stop talking. You're making things worse. Douglas shakes him off violently. Get off me. I'm telling the truth. They can't handle the truth. He points at the prosecutor. She knows this is bogus. Everyone in this room knows it. But no one has the guts to say it except me. 30 seconds of silence from Judge Caprio. 40 seconds. Something shifts in Douglas's demeanor. The silence is unnerving him. He expected anger, confrontation, a fight. Instead, he's getting calm, steady silence. It's throwing him off balance. Say something. Douglas shouts, defend yourself. Defend this farce of a court. 50 seconds. 60 seconds. Douglas's face is purple now, veins visible on his forehead. You can't just sit there silently. That's not how this works. You have to respond. You have to. And then something happens. Douglas's aggression cracks. The volume of his voice changes. Look, that cyclist, he wasn't hurt. Nobody was hurt. It was just driving. Everyone speeds. Everyone runs yellows. Why am I being singled out? 70 seconds of Judge Caprio's silence. Douglas's voice drops further. I was just trying to get to a meeting. An important meeting. I had investors waiting. I couldn't be late. You understand that, right? When you're at my level, being late costs money. Real money. 80 seconds. The cyclist, I saw him. I did see him. But I knew I could make it. I've driven for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. I'm a good driver. 90 seconds. Then Douglas says something that changes everything. His voice is quieter now, defensive. Besides, he's fine. I checked. The cyclist is fine. He didn't even fall. He's just trying to make money off this. He's probably planning a lawsuit or something. Judge Caprio speaks for the first time in 90 seconds. His voice is very quiet. Mr. Whitmore, how do you know the cyclist is fine? Douglas blinks, realizing he said something wrong but not quite understanding what. What? You said, I checked. You said the cyclist is fine. How did you check? The police report states you didn't stop after nearly hitting the cyclist. You continued driving until police forced you to stop 45 seconds later. So how did you check on the cyclist? Douglas's face shows panic. I meant I assumed he was fine. I saw him in my mirror. He was standing. That's not what you said, Mr. Whitmore. You said, I checked. That implies you had contact with the cyclist after the incident. Douglas's attorney stands quickly. Your Honor, my client is confused. He misspoke. Judge Caprio's eyes never leave Douglas. Did you make contact with that cyclist, Mr. Whitmore? No. I just saw him in my mirror. Ms. Chen, what's the name of the cyclist involved in this incident? Rebecca Chen flips through her file. Kevin Matthews, age 26, works as a courier in downtown Providence. Judge Caprio asks Douglas directly, have you had any contact with Kevin Matthews since the incident? No. Why would I? Because you said I checked and is fine and is probably planning a lawsuit. Those statements suggest specific knowledge of his condition and intentions. Knowledge you shouldn't have if you never stopped and never made contact. Douglas is sweating now, his aggressive demeanor completely gone. People talk. I might have heard something. Who did you hear it from? I don't remember. Someone mentioned it. Judge Caprio turns to the prosecutor. Ms. Chen, has Kevin Matthews been contacted by anyone related to this case? Rebecca Chen pulls out her phone, sending a quick text. Within 30 seconds, her phone buzzes. She reads a response, and her expression changes dramatically. Your Honor, I just received confirmation from Mr. Matthews. He states that 2 days after the incident, he was approached by a man who identified himself as representing Mr. Whitmore. This man offered Mr. Matthews $10,000 cash to sign a statement saying the incident wasn't serious and that Mr. Whitmore's driving wasn't dangerous. The courtroom erupts. Douglas's face goes from red to white in seconds. Judge Caprio's voice cuts through the noise. Mr. Whitmore, did you or anyone representing you offer money to Kevin Matthews in exchange for a favorable statement? I didn't do anything illegal. Attempting to influence a witness in a traffic proceeding is witness tampering, Mr. Whitmore. It's a felony. Douglas collapses back into his chair. His attorney looks like he wants to disappear. Judge Caprio continues, his voice still calm but now carrying undeniable authority. Mr. Whitmore, you came into my courtroom aggressive, hostile, disrespectful. You screamed, you threatened, you insulted. I said nothing. I let you talk. And in your anger and arrogance, you reveal that you had knowledge you shouldn't have. You revealed contact with a witness. You revealed an attempt to influence testimony. Douglas's voice is barely a whisper. I was just trying to make it go away. He wasn't hurt. It wasn't a big deal. It became a big deal when you tried to cover it up, Mr. Whitmore. Ms. Chen, I want Kevin Matthews brought to this courtroom immediately. I also want a full investigation into witness tampering. Mr. Whitmore, you are now facing additional charges of witness tampering and obstruction of justice. Douglas tries one more time, his voice pleading now. Judge, please, I made a mistake. I was stressed. I have a family, a business. This will destroy everything. Judge Caprio's response is quiet but firm. You had the opportunity to take responsibility. Instead, you chose aggression, intimidation, and attempted witness tampering. You made your choices, Mr. Whitmore. Now you face the consequences. Within an hour, Kevin Matthews arrives at the courthouse. He is a thin young man, wearing cycling gear, still looking shaken from the incident. Judge Caprio asks him gently, Mr. Matthews, please tell the court what happened after the incident with Mr. Whitmore's vehicle. Kevin's voice is nervous but clear. 2 days after I almost got hit, a man came to my apartment. He said he worked for Mr. Whitmore. He offered me $10,000 in cash if I would sign a paper saying the incident wasn't Mr. Whitmore's fault and that I wasn't in any danger. Did you take the money? No, sir. It felt wrong. I told him to leave. Then I called the police and reported it. Why didn't you take the money, Mr. Matthews? Kevin looks directly at Douglas Whitmore. Because I almost died. I was crossing the street legally. That Mercedes came out of nowhere going so fast I barely had time to react. I had nightmares about it for a week. And then someone shows up trying to make me say it didn't matter, that it wasn't dangerous. No amount of money is worth lying about something like that. Judge Caprio nods. Thank you for your honesty, Mr. Matthews. You're dismissed. As Kevin leaves, Judge Caprio turns to Douglas. Mr. Whitmore, you nearly killed a young man. Instead of taking responsibility, you tried to pay him to lie. You came into my courtroom screaming about being persecuted, about being set up, about being singled out because of your success. But the truth is simpler. You drove recklessly. You endangered lives. You broke the law. And when caught, you tried to cover it up. Douglas is crying now, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I panicked. I didn't know what to do. Here is your sentence, Mr. Whitmore. On the original charges of reckless driving, excessive speeding, and running red lights, 1 year suspension of your driver's license, $5,000 in fines, 200 hours of community service. On the charge of witness tampering, I'm referring this to the district attorney's office for felony prosecution. Bail is set at $50,000. You will remain in custody until bail is posted. Douglas's attorney speaks weakly. Your Honor, could my client be released on personal recognizance? He is not a flight risk. Mr. Shepard, your client just demonstrated that when facing consequences, he attempts to obstruct justice. He'll remain in custody until bail is posted. As bailiffs handcuff Douglas and lead him away, his aggression is completely gone. His weeping, stumbling, a broken man. Over the next 3 months, the witness tampering investigation expands. Prosecutors discover that Douglas Whitmore has a history of using money and intimidation to make problems disappear. 2 other incidents surface where witnesses in civil cases against him were offered large sums to change their testimony. The district attorney files multiple felony charges, 3 counts of witness tampering, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy. The evidence is overwhelming. The man Douglas sent to Kevin Matthews' apartment testifies against him, providing details of how Douglas instructed him specifically to make the problem go away and offer whatever it takes. 6 months later, the trial concludes. Douglas Edward Whitmore is convicted on all counts. The judge in the criminal trial sentences him to 4 years in federal prison, 3 years probation, $250,000 in fines, and orders him to divest from active management of Whitmore properties. His real estate empire crumbles. Investors lose confidence. Partners distance themselves. The board of Whitmore Properties votes to remove him as CEO. The company is eventually sold to a competitor at a fraction of its former value. 2 years into Douglas's sentence, Judge Frank Caprio receives a letter. It's from Douglas Whitmore. The letter reads, "Your Honor, I'm writing from federal prison to tell you something I should have said in your courtroom 2 years ago. I'm sorry. I was wrong. About everything. I came into your court angry, aggressive, entitled. I screamed at you, threatened you, insulted you. You said nothing. You let me talk. And in my arrogance, I revealed my own guilt. You didn't need to raise your voice. You didn't need to fight me. You just stayed calm and let my own word destroy me. I've had 2 years to think about that morning. I've replayed it in my mind thousands of times. I was so certain I was right, so convinced I was being persecuted. But I wasn't. I was just a reckless driver who nearly killed someone and then tried to cover it up. You gave me every opportunity to be honest, to take responsibility. Instead, I chose aggression and deception. I destroyed my life, my business, my reputation. I hurt my family. I disappointed everyone who believed in me. And it all started with me raising my voice at a judge who refused to raise his. Thank you for that lesson. Your Honor, I wish I'd learned it earlier. Douglas Whitmore. Judge Caprio reads the letter twice. Then he writes a brief response. Mr. Whitmore, I accept your apology. I hope you use your remaining time to become someone who takes responsibility instead of someone who demands immunity. Anger reveals more than it intimidates. Silence teaches more than shouting. You learn that the hard way. Make sure the lesson wasn't wasted. Judge Frank Caprio. 3 years later, Douglas Whitmore is released from federal prison. He's 57 years old, no longer the CEO of a $200 million company, no longer a man of influence and power. He gets a job working in construction, entry-level labor, learning humility through physical work. One afternoon, he's working on a construction site in Providence when he sees someone familiar. Kevin Matthews, the cyclist he nearly hit, is riding past on his bike, making a delivery. Douglas stops working and walks over. Mr. Matthews. Kevin stops, recognizing him immediately. There's tension, uncertainty. Douglas speaks quietly. I owe you an apology. A real one. I almost killed you. Then I tried to pay you to lie about it. I'm sorry. There's no excuse for what I did. Kevin studies him for a long moment. You went to prison. 4 years. Federal. I deserved it. You're working construction now. Yes. It's honest work. I'm learning to be honest again. Kevin extends his hand. I forgive you, Mr. Whitmore. I hope you find peace. Douglas shakes his hand, tears in his eyes. Thank you. If this story impacted you, subscribe right now for more moments where Judge Frank Caprio proves that staying calm reveals more truth than any amount of shouting ever could. Hit that like button and share this video because the world needs to see what real judicial temperament looks like. Remember Judge Caprio's words. Anger reveals more than it intimidates. Silence teaches more than shouting. That's a legacy of Judge Frank Caprio. That's the integrity of Kevin Matthews. That's a lesson Douglas Whitmore learned too late, but finally understood. One courtroom tantrum, 90 seconds of silence, one slip of the tongue that revealed witness tampering, a business empire destroyed, 4 years in federal prison, and one man who learned that raising your voice never wins against a judge who refuses to raise his. In Judge Caprio's courtroom, calm always defeats chaos. Truth always defeats intimidation. And silence speaks louder than any scream.